My name's Ken Hinson, and me and my wife Pam have been coming here for a pretty good while. And I'd just like to start off by saying, it started for me when I was young. I was little. My father was an alcoholic, and my mother, she was the only thing that we had, me and my sister and my brother and my other sister. And she was the only thing we had. My father, he would drink, and he would be just passed out, and we didn't know what to do. And but my mother, she was the foundation. Well, my father, he would beat her. I mean, he would just beat her and cuss her and everything else. And for you people that think that your children don't know what you're doing or don't understand what's going on, they do. I mean, I understood at an early age. And, most people, I hear them say that they're alcoholic because their father was alcoholic. Well, it made me hate it. I despised it. And I swore when I got older, if I ever got married, I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to drink. I wasn't going to beat my wife. And I wasn't going to treat her the way my father treated my mom. Well, went on and on and on. And my mother died in 1988 with breast cancer. And I thought my world ended there. I thought that was it. I had no idea that anything else. I didn't know what to do. My father was still alcoholic, and I thought we were lost, and we were gone, And I contemplated killing myself. I thought that was the way to do it. But it wasn't. Later on, a couple years down the road, I played around with drugs and alcohol, to see if that was the way to go. And I found out it wasn't. I knew it wasn't. I got a job at this little place in Seagrove, and that's where I met my wife. She was married at the time. And I really was in a position I didn't care. I thought I wanted her, and that's just the way things was. And so we started seeing each other, and we were watching a TV show one night, and it was a preacher, and he came on. And we actually didn't watch this show for the right reasons. They had a little call-in segment, and they would get like funny calls in, just it wasn't timed, and that's why we watched it. And I called in one night, and I told him, I said, me and my wife, me and my girlfriend, we're not married, but I love her. And he said, well, you got to leave. And I said, well, I don't want to leave. And I told him I wasn't going to leave, And I hung the phone up. And it just, something just kept dealing with me and dealing with me and dealing with me. And I told Pam, I said, well, I got to leave. I said, I can't do this. Can't do it no more. Something, I got to go home. And I said, I hope you and your husband, get back together and y'all have a good life. I said, I'm not going to be the one to cause y'all, to have a bad marriage. Well, it wasn't 2 weeks down the road, she told me, she said, I went back and I tried to reconcile with him, and he didn't want nothing to do with me. And 2 weeks later, they were divorced, just out of the blue, and me and her went and got married. So this started a whole new chapter in my life. As far as when I met her family, I got another family back. Her mom was a Christian. She taught me everything I know, as far as coming to church and everything, and I really got to a point to where I relied on her mother and father instead of my own. I mean, her father took me fishing, and we did the things that father and son do, and her mother got us here. She brought us, she was watching TV one day, and she said, let's go to that church. And I said, well, I'll go, if Pam will go, I'll go. I just followed her about everywhere, anyway. So we came down here, and I really enjoyed it, and
just to kind of back up a little bit from what he was saying is the family that I come from was, my dad was a singer. He had his own little band, and I was raised up in a home that when Friday nights come, or Saturday nights, it was time to go somewhere and have a party. I mean, I was trying to fill a void. So when I was 13, my dad would take me to these clubs, and, I thought, well, if my dad's doing it, it's the right thing to do, And I never seen my dad drinking, or he just loved to have a good time, My whole dad's family was, musicians and everything, And so I thought, well, that's what's missing in my life. I need to be singing. I need to be with my dad. I need to be, Friday nights and Saturday nights. I live for it, So, but my mom, she would always be listening to tapes and stuff, and it would always start on Friday evening. She'd be listening to gospel tapes, and you don't want to hear that when you're getting ready to go party or whatever, and because a conviction would fall on you, and it would just ruin the whole weekend. So anyway, I would hear it, and she'd be at home praying, and I knew she was praying. She was that rock. She was that foundation in our home, and so it took one night, when I got old enough to where I could just, I got out on my own when I was 18, one night, and while I was with Ken, while we were dating, so to speak, he was never into that kind of scene. He never was into, the clubs or nothing like that. He's just more just stay at home, Well, I would just leave him at the house and go on with my friends. And because that was just in my blood, we had to go somewhere, it was Friday, Saturday night. And so I would go, and it took about 2 miles from my home, me and my friends, we had an accident. And we kind of just hydroplaned right in the road. It was raining real hard, and we had an accident. And it took that accident, when I got out of that vehicle, and I was thrown out of that vehicle, and I felt that I was not in hell, because I knew they